Hey Lash artists, welcome back to another episode. I'm Charrissa, and that's Charrissa with a CH. And if you're new here, I've been lashing since 2018, and I'm here to give you the real talk that beauty school forgot to mention. Today, we're diving into something that literally keeps me up at night. I see it all over the lash pages, retention issues. And before we even start, I need you to know something. If your clients are complaining about their lashes falling out after a week, it's probably your fault. I know that sounds a bit harsh, but it's likely true, likely more often than not. Stick with me because I'm about to blow your mind with some lash biology that's going to change everything you think you know about retention. Or at least give you a few tips. So grab your coffee, get comfortable, and let's talk about why your retention might suck. And more importantly, how to fix it. Before we jump into the science, let me tell you about, let's call her Sarah. Sarah was one of my clients about 2 years ago, and she came to me after having a horrible experience with another lash artist. So much so that she was convinced lash extensions just did not work on her because every set she'd gotten fell out within a week. Now, Sarah had these gorgeous, thick, long natural lashes, like the ones we all dream of working with. And I'm looking at her lashes thinking, these should hold extensions beautifully. But here's the thing, and this is where it gets interesting. Those beautiful, thick lashes were actually the problem. See, what Sarah's previous lash artist didn't understand is that not all lashes are created equally. Some are about to fall out tomorrow, and some are going to stick around for a few months. And if you can't tell the difference, you are setting yourself up for retention failure every single time. And that appointment with Sarah changed how I approached every single client since then, because lash strength is not all that meets the eye, and it's exactly what we're talking about today. Alright, so let's get into the science, but don't worry, I'm going to keep this simple and practical. Lash Apothecary coined, I think, the term girl science, which is making complex information easily digestible. Your natural lashes go through different growth phases, just like the hair on your head. There's anagen, that's the growth phase, catagen, the transition phase, and telogen, the resting phase. And then the exogen phase, that's there, but people don't always mention it. That's where the lash is basically just hanging out, waiting to fall out. It's no longer actually attached, it's just floating in there. Now, this is the part that's going to make you rethink everything. Those gorgeous, thick, long lashes that we all love to work with, the ones that look perfect for the extensions, and I know these are the first ones that you're isolating and putting an extension on. Am I right? I'm probably right, because that's what I always did. They're so much easier to find. Well, those are usually intelligent. They're adult lashes that are literally about to shed. Think about it this way. When a lash has been growing for months, it gets thick, it gets long, and it's oh so beautiful. But it's also at the end of its life cycle. It's like a tree in fall where it looks full and mature, but it's really actually about to drop its leaves. A telogen phase lash only has a tiny bit of itself actually anchored into the follicle. Sometimes they're even in exogen, which means they're already detached and just floating there, waiting to fall out. So if you're only lashing those big, beautiful, obvious lashes, which let's be honest, most of us do because they're easy to see and work with, you're basically building your entire set on lashes that are about to shed. Now, I'm not saying don't lash them at all. That's good real estate and we do want to use it, but you need an insurance policy. You need to be lashing the smaller lashes too, the ones that are in anagen and early catagen, because these might look less impressive, but big things come in small packages, and they have way more of their shaft anchored in the follicle. They're stronger. They're not going anywhere for weeks. This is something I dive way deeper into in my retention course I'm developing actively, because there's just so much to understand about lash biology and how to identify which phase each lash is in. And taking into consideration what length and diameter is still healthy for a tiny anagen lash, because you do not want to go in and place 12mm lashes on those itty bitty lashes. So don't think that's what I'm saying, because I'm not saying to do that. Don't hear what I didn't say, and don't come for me when you do that and you have bad results. I'm saying that there are lashes you can put on them, but you don't lash them the same as all the other lashes. But for now, just remember, don't put all your eggs in the Telogen basket. Okay, tip number 2, and this one's all about practice and experience. You need to use enough adhesive, but not too much. And I know that sounds obvious, but hear me out. Too little adhesive, and you don't have a proper bond. The extension is basically just sitting on top of the natural lash, waiting to slide off. But if you add too much adhesive, that's where you run into the irritation issues, developed sensitivities, contact dermatitis, clogged mobium glands, and nobody wants that. This is honestly where experience comes in. You have to practice until you can feel the difference, until you know exactly how much adhesive creates that perfect bond without overdoing it. And there's no exact science. I can't say to use this much adhesive. I can show you, but it's still going to be different depending on the length of the extension, the length of the natural lash, what adhesive you're using, all of the factors that go into this. So it really comes down to practice makes perfect. But here's what I tell lash artists when I'm advising them. So if you think of it like putting butter on toast, too little, it doesn't spread properly. Too much, it's a soggy mess. You want that perfect amount that gives you coverage and absorption without excess. And honestly, this is something that takes time to master. So I don't want you to beat yourself up if you're still figuring it out. I've been doing this since 2018 and I'm still fine-tuning my adhesive techniques based on different lash types and environmental factors. And only recently, within the past couple months, made the swap to an entirely new to me system. I now use the Opal system, which is from Lash Apothecary. There was a tiny bit of a learning curve, but this is an industry where you keep learning. People say not to fix something that isn't broken, but I personally think we're shooting ourselves in the foot if we're not willing to grow and continue learning. The industry, as with everything else in this world, is evolving, but that is an entire other topic. So moving on to tip number 3, and I'm probably going to ruffle some feathers here. Stop using the 25mm lashes. Just stop. I know. Clients ask for them, they see them on Instagram, they want those dramatic over-the-top lashes, but here's the thing. If someone is adamant about getting those huge lashes, they need to stick to strip lashes. Extensions are not the right service for that look. And I'm gonna tell you why. Physics. That's it. It's just physics. A 25mm extension on a natural lash is like trying to balance a telephone pole on a toothpick. The weight distribution is all wrong. The leverage is working against you. Even if you have the perfect adhesive application and healthy natural lashes, that extension is going to create stress on the follicle that leads to premature shedding. And if the excessive weight continues, then permanent lash damage can happen over time. It's not easy to do, but it can happen. Now, here's what I want you to remember. The most aesthetic and clean lash sets start with single digits. I'm talking 9mm or smaller for that gorgeous, elegant look. I know that might sound crazy if you're used to working with longer lengths, but trust me on this, when you focus on creating density and texture with shorter lengths, you get this beautiful effect that looks way more expensive and sophisticated than those Instagram dramatic sets that give, don't hate me, they give ghetto. And that is not a luxury, high-priced service look. If you want to charge the most in your area for your work, that isn't it. That doesn't mean you can't do a 14 or 15mm mega volume set. Of course not. But let me also tell you, consider playing with your lash curl for the more drama rather than just bumping up the lengths more and more, because maybe adding a bit more curl might be the look they're looking for. There are mapping techniques to make these sets that are 14 or 15mm mega volume sets still look amazing and professional. And believe it or not, you can start a lash set with a 7mm lash and get it up to 15mm without it looking silly. Lightheart, like Maddie, the owner, has gorgeous examples on her Instagram page, and they share mapping, so it's fabulous. So it's a great resource. This is not a mapping episode, but that is something that you can consider. And And let's bring this back to your retention. Since you're working with the natural lashes instead of against them, retention is going to be so much better when you swap those inner and outer corner lengths because those lashes are typically naturally finer in diameter and shorter in length. And they also can tend to have a shorter cycle, which is, you can kind of identify that because when they get their largest, they're still shorter than the other lashes. But by the time they shed before the other ones, so they don't actually make it to the full length. But they also grow in more frequently, right? So you'll lose one faster, but you'll also get that next one in sooner because with the phases, as one is coming out, what really loosens it and pushes it out is that next one that's coming in. So if that's a faster cycle, that also means they're cycling through them a little bit faster. But again, that's a whole other topic. So I'm going to move on from there. The next tip number 4, is all about the prep. And this is where I see so many lash artists cutting the corners. You need to lash bath every single client. Every single one of them. Even if they tell you they wash their face right before they come to the appointment, even if they look clean, even if they swear they don't wear makeup, you wash those lashes. Here's my rule. If your paper towel has any color on it when you're rinsing, and I mean any trace of eyeshadow, eyeliner, foundation, mascara, you wash it. And repeat. Even a third time if you have to. If you have color on that paper towel, you need to redo it. You're not going to have great retention if that debris is left behind. And here's the thing that clients don't understand. It's really hard for them to get everything off, and they can't get in between each individual lash like we can. They're washing from the outside, and it doesn't mean that they're doing a bad job, but we need to clean from the base up, and we're able to get on the inside between those lashes. So even if someone washed right before their appointment, I wash again. I wash to make sure that there's no debris left over. And it's not that I don't trust them, it's just that the thorough cleaning requires tools and techniques that they don't have at home. It's our responsibility to keep their eye health, healthy. I'm pretty sure there are more proper words for that out there, but you get what I'm saying. Now, I take this a step further, and I know a few people that do as well. And this might be new for some of you. But after I tape the lashes down, I actually floss the lashes with hydrochloric acid from AlkiSoft. I was always flossing the lashes after a lash bath with saline, but I wasn't using the hydrochloric acid, nor did I know the technique I was using had a name, flossing. So I do know that that sounds intense, but this stuff is specifically designed for eyelashes and eyelid hygiene. It's gentle, but incredibly effective at removing oils, debris, and bacteria that regular cleansing might miss. And the hydrochloric acid basically eats the debris and really breaks down, leaving a super clean surface for the extensions. And this isn't just about retention, though it definitely helps with that. This is also about the optimal lash health. The last thing we want is for a client to get blepharitis, and this is a great way to prevent that. But yes, the cleaner and healthier the environment, the better everything is going to perform and the longer the extensions will last. And the hydrochloric acid flossing technique is something I demonstrate in detail in my upcoming course because there's a specific way to do it. But even just upgrading your basic lash bath routine is going to make a huge difference in your retention rates. And I do believe that Lash Apothecary has a new course relating to eye hygiene, and that's including the hydrochloric acid in that routine, but you'd have to actually look that up. I know they're talking about it on their Instagram. I just can't recall the name right this moment. And finally, tip number 5. My absolute secret weapon is the Opal Light Curing System from the Lash Apothecary that I mentioned earlier. Now, this feels important to mention as a tip for retention because it has genuinely transformed my retention rates. Just today, I got a "Hey girl" text. But my "Hey girl" texts are now clients asking to push a week out because they're holding on so well. So want to break down exactly why it works so well? I mean, not exactly, but I'll give you a little overview. Traditional adhesive curing happens through exposure to humidity in the air. It's a slow process and it's inconsistent because you can't control the humidity levels in your room perfectly. Some days it's higher, some days it's lower, and that affects how your adhesive performs. The Opal system uses controlled light curing instead, so you're essentially taking control of the curing process instead of leaving it up to environmental factors. The adhesive cures faster, more consistently, and creates a stronger bond. But here's what I really love about it. It gives me the confidence in my work because I know that every single extension I apply is getting the same optimal curing conditions. I'm not worried if the humidity is right or if the adhesive is going to perform the way I expect it to, because I know it will. It's not a will it? No, it will. I don't need a bonder. I don't have to worry about if I got every lash. There are no temperature concerns. It's just a jolly time these days. Like, I am so happy because I'm confident in my lash work every time. And from the client experience standpoint, it's amazing. What? Standpoint? It's amazing. The curing process is faster, which means less chance of irritation from adhesive fumes. There aren't stickies because the extension cures while you're picking up your next lash. And, of course, the better retention, which means they're happier. Now I want to be clear. The Opal system isn't magic. It doesn't fix poor technique or bad prep work. But when you combine it with everything else we've talked about today, proper lash selection, proper adhesive application, appropriate lengths, and thorough cleaning, it then takes your retention to the next level. I've had clients go from 2-week touch-ups to 4-week appointments just by implementing these changes, and that's not just better for them, that's better for your booking schedule and your income too, because once you're providing this luxury experience and a very professional retention rate, you can charge the higher price because it saves them time not coming as frequently. So here's what I want you to take away from today's episode. Retention problems aren't usually about your skill level. They're about understanding the science behind what you're doing. When you understand lash growth phases, you stop blaming clients and build a better relationship with them. And when you understand adhesive chemistry, you stop second-guessing your application technique. When you understand the physics of length and weight, you stop trying to make impossible extensions work. This is the mindset shift that changed everything for me, instead of seeing retention issues as client failures, which leads to tension between the artist and the client. I started seeing them as puzzles to solve with this girl science and technique because I now have the answers, I just have to put it all together. And that's exactly what I'm putting together in my comprehensive retention course. All of this science broken down into practical, actionable techniques that you can implement immediately, because there's so much more to dive into beyond what we covered today. But for now, I want you to try implementing these 5 tips into your next few clients. Pay attention to which lashes you're choosing, experiment with your adhesive application, try shorter lengths if you've been going with long lashes. Upgrade your cleaning routine, and then I want you to track your results. Take notes on retention rates, pay attention to which clients are coming back sooner versus later, start connecting the dots between your technique choices and your outcomes, even down to tracking the humidity levels if you're using traditional adhesives. And if you're ready to invest into the same system that changed my retention from good to practically perfect, look into the Opal system. I don't have any kind of affiliate link through them, but I do love the system enough to say that I may reach out at some point and try to get a partnership or something. And if somehow they ever listen to this podcast, hi, I'm Charrissa with a CH, and I would love the opportunity. But until then, that's a wrap on today's episode. If this information was helpful, please share it with another lash artist who might be struggling with retention. We're all in this together, and the more we share real, accurate information, the better our industry becomes. You can find me on Instagram at LOLlotsoflashes, and if you have any questions about anything I covered today, slide into my DMs. I'd love to hear from you and help problem solve retention issues. And if you want to be the first to know when my retention course launches, make sure you're following me on Instagram, because that's where I'm going to be announcing all the details. Do know, just because I am creating a course, I don't know when that's officially going to come out, so I can't give you that date. But no, I am still going to continue with free content on every single platform in some way, shape, form, or fashion. You will never have to spend anything with me. I think the courses are just a great way to put everything in one little spot if you really want that comprehensive manual for videos, because it will be recorded. Until next time, keep lashing, and remember, you're probably doing better than you think you are.